Hey guys, Booligan here with Booligan Shooting Sports. Today, we're taking a look at something that I didn't design, but I'm hoping to help release to the public. Whether you know this as Deckard's Blaster, the PKD, the Steyr Pflager Katsumata Series D Blaster, the LAPD 2019, or just that gun. This, as you may know, is the main sidearm used by Harrison Ford's character in Blade Runner. For consistency's sake, let's call it Deckard's Blaster. It is a 3D printable kit that will install on a Heritage Rough Rider revolver of the 4.75 inch, not the super long, not the super short, just kind of the just right, the most basic one, but 22 caliber single action revolver. The base design on this, this whole thing was put together by Rick Wells, who contacted me and said, hey, I'm designing this thing. You do some awesome sci-fi guns. Do you want to try printing this stuff out? And he sent me some of his designs, and I was just wowed by this work. It's the designs are super, super awesome. And, you know, he and I have kind of been chatting back and forth, going through some revisions on this and hoping to get a full public release, or at least a paid release. It's his design, so kind of however he wants to release it, but get these out in the wild, just because it is such a super cool design. This is my first test prototype print to test some fitting on things, to test various filaments, and just to see how it goes together. And I kind of wanted to go over it with you guys as a little bit of an introduction and just kind of talk about it. So if you know either your sci-fi movies, you know, Blade Runner 2049, or if you have played any of the Fallout games, you will recognize this guy. It's really just one of the most distinctive prop guns, frankly, in my opinion, in movie history. It's just instantly recognizable for what it is. The original movie props of these were built using Charter Arms Bulldogs, I believe, and then a Steyr bolt action upper receiver and other funky things. They had 2 triggers on them just because it looked cool. They wanted to go with a more grounded in reality look for the movie, and that's kind of how they ended up with these. The props had these completely see-through orange grips, and it wasn't supposed to be a hero gun, really. It wasn't supposed to be, you know, something special. It was just, you know, this was the standard sidearm for, you know, LAPD at the time, and that's how they ended up with this. So this design obviously has to make some compromises from being screen accurate in order to fit a single action Heritage Rough Rider revolver inside. So it's obviously not going to be 100% screen accurate, but anybody that looks at this thing instantly knows what it is that you're going for. It is one of the best modeled designs that I have ever worked with. Rick did an astounding job putting this design together, and I'm just super impressed with it. It just, all of the details are as right as they can be, and it just fits together. Everything just slides on. It slides on the barrel, slides on the bottom. The grips go on with no futzing around with anything. It just works. It's a multi-part print. You have this big section here. You have the extended trigger guard, which goes all the way down to the bottom. You have the heel of the grip, the back strap of the grip, and then the grip panels themselves. One of the things that we're kind of working out is what are the best materials to use to best emulate the the prop guns. Orange transparency is something that's a little bit tricky to do. This is printed, the whole thing's printed in PLA plus, except for the grips are printed in clear PLA, which is something I played around with a little bit. I like it. It prints kind of weird. It can be a little bit brittle, but it prints relatively well as long as you don't have any crazy overhangs, and these grips, you print them, flat, so they actually print pretty well. But you can kind of see the the structure inside. They're not completely transparent. You shine light, they're translucent. You can see through them. Light gets through them. But you can see the structure inside for the support. So I'll be playing around with, I found and I ordered an orange translucent PLA. I'm going to play around with that a little bit, as well as some different infill patterns, just to kind of see how I can make it look best. One thing to note on this is, I don't know if it'll show up in the light, but it almost has like a wood grain effect, just because it printed like that and it's slowly built up, a couple layers, that it has this kind of topographic map grip to it. It's really cool. As Rick has been working on this design and polishing up this design, he's been sending me updates, and we have some updated grip files that we're working on with some checkering on them that's pretty close to being movie accurate. And we're also putting together hardware profiles. His original setup, this guy mounts just like every other Heritage Rough Rider kit that I've worked on and that Vin has worked on. It slides on and then it secures with the screw, replacing the ejection tube with a printed one, so you could still, eject your spent rounds like you normally would. The grips and a couple of other things are attached sort of with M3 screws that cut sacrificial threads. I don't like doing sacrificial threads on grips where possible, so I'm kind of setting it up to use heat set, or just literally getting some M3 nuts and just using a soldering iron and just pushing them in so it melts its own little cavity there. That actually worked really well in the grips. My grips are on here rock solid. But yeah, we're just kind of figuring out the hardware profiles. We're figuring out the materials. We're figuring out, the base guns, and doing some document write-ups. As you can tell, this is a prototype print, and part of it actually failed on the print, but mainly this was just for test fitting. This front guy extends normally out here, but you can see the infill pattern there where this front piece came off when it was printing. But other than that, this thing it has built-in supports into the file, so you just need to add minimal, if any, supports just to kind of, perfect things. It's just a super, super cool print. So yeah, I just wanted to kind of give you guys a little bit of an introduction on this. I've teased this a little bit on my social media, but I wanted to show it to the YouTube audience as well. But I really think this is something that, as Rick is able to get the design polished up, and hopefully I can help him get this file released, you're going to see, hopefully a couple different iterations of this. This simple version, a version with functional LEDs. That's something that Rick is working on as well. And if you don't want to run functional LEDs, you'll be able to just kind of print the little LED bulbs, and they'll just pop into place. This guy's an awesome, awesome designer, and I hope I get to work with him more, just because the stuff that he has sent me has just been absolutely stellar. So yeah, just kind of wanted to give you guys a little bit of a first video look at this very cool project. And you guys can kind of follow along with the development always on my social media. I always post the most frequent updates for things there. But also we'll have more videos on this. And hopefully when we're done, when we have the design polished up and ready to go, I'll be able to, have one custom painted, sort of as like, a hero prop, just just as perfect as it can look, with some clear grips on there. We may even just go with with resin printed grips, or even epoxy. You could go with dyed epoxy and mold them, print a negative, mold, and then mold into it. That's an option. But we want to try to make this as simple and accessible as possible. So yeah, stay tuned for more updates on this. And of course, as always, thanks for watching.